The tale of William John Constable-Turner, the little-known cousin of two very famous artists. In the year of our Lord, 1800 and something or other, there resided in the charming village of Hampstead a certain gentleman by the name of William John Constable-Turner. Now, dear reader, you may raise your eyebrows and think to yourself, surely a man of such a name is a relation to the great landscape painter John Constable, or perhaps to the famed master of light, J.M.W. Turner. And indeed, you would be correct. For William John Constable-Turner was the unfortunate, or fortunate, depending on one's perspective, cousin of both. Yet, while John Constable painted rolling hills and bucolic countryside, and Turner captured the sublime fury of storms and seas, poor William had his sights set on, well, other matters. You see, William John Constable-Turner was not burdened with any particular artistic talent. His brush strokes were as chaotic as the weather on a particularly bad English summer day, haphazard, ill-timed, and often accompanied by a great deal of sighing. But that did not deter him. Oh no, for he believed with all his heart that he was destined for greatness, despite the general consensus that his paintings looked more like a poorly made shepherd's pie than the verdant meadows of his cousin Constable. His family, of course, had long since given up on subtlety. "William, dear boy," his Aunt Edna once remarked over tea, "your paintings look like you've spilled gravy on the canvas and called it art." To which William would reply, with great dignity, "Ah, but Aunt Edna, it is abstract." The future of art, if you will. Mark my words, in 100 years, everyone will be painting like this. Reader, we must admit, he was not entirely wrong. But that is neither here nor there. In truth, William John Constable-Turner was more interested in appearing to be an artist than in actually becoming one. He had mastered the art of looking like a painter, often to be found wandering Hampstead Heath in a flowing cape, with a great wide-brimmed hat, squinting at the clouds and muttering things like, "Ah, the light. The divine light. It doth elude me." He spent more time adjusting his hat at a jaunty angle than he ever did mixing his paints. His studio, if one could call it that, was a small, cluttered affair where canvases piled up, each more disastrous than the last. One particularly infamous painting, entitled "The Battle of some place or other," was meant to be a fierce naval engagement, but ended up looking more like a furious argument between two badly made biscuits. His attempts at landscape were even more dismal. View from the window was nothing more than a blurry depiction of what appeared to be a loaf of bread. Nonetheless, he insisted upon inviting his cousins, Turner and Constable, to view his work. Turner, ever the diplomat, would smile tightly and say things like, "Well, William, you certainly do use a great deal of color." Constable, on the other hand, was not so kind. "William, my dear fellow," he'd say, barely containing his laughter, "this tree, is it meant to resemble a cow, or have I lost my senses?" But William John Constable-Turner was not a man easily discouraged. He continued to paint with all the enthusiasm of a man who believes his genius to be misunderstood, rather than non-existent. When not painting, he fancied himself a great philosopher, and would often sit for hours in the Hampstead tea-rooms, pondering the mysteries of life, the universe, and why no one seemed to appreciate his masterpiece, Portrait of a Sheep in a Gale. He spent much time contemplating the future of art, and indeed, had he known that abstract art would become popular, he might have found some consolation. As it was, William's life was full of minor misadventures. He once attempted to join the Royal Academy of Art, but was kindly redirected to the Royal Academy of Gardening. He spent an entire afternoon trying to convince an innocent passerby that his painting, 3 Peas on a Boat, was a metaphor for man's existential crisis, though, in truth, he'd accidentally dropped peas on his canvas during lunch. His greatest triumph, perhaps, came one evening at a grand society party, where he presented a particularly abstract work entitled Cows in Moonlight. Lady Farnsworth squinted at the painting for several minutes before declaring, "I do believe this man is a genius. Look at the raw emotion. The cows, they seemed to transcend reality. Word spread, and for one brief, glorious week, William was the talk of Hampstead. He was invited to dinners, luncheons, and even the occasional breakfast, though, regrettably, the admiration faded once people realized the cows were, in fact, mere blobs of paint. William John Constable-Turner eventually retired from his so-called artistic career, and took up the much less demanding occupation of amateur beekeeping. There, amongst the buzzing of bees, he finally found some peace, declaring with great satisfaction that bees were the true artists of nature, what with their honeycomb and their delicate wings. And so, dear reader, the story of William John Constable-Turner comes to an end, a man with grand ambition, little talent, and a never-ending supply of absurdly large hats. Though his name may not be remembered alongside his illustrious cousins, his spirit of determination and delusion lives on in all those who pursue greatness, no matter how questionable their abilities. The end.